Angeles Airport. I saw it. Los Angeles Airport. Time you see is still, huh? Okay. Time you see is Eastern Standard Time. It's only 1:12 here. So far, Billy's done great. We've had a wonderful trip. Our connections are fine. Look how happy Mother is. Is she happy or what? Yes, Mother. I was just telling everybody what a good mood you were in.
I wonder how the camera's like take your picture.
Why?
No. You were mouthing off.
What do I got to do? Look like I'm enjoying her company again?
Yeah.
Well, here we are in Lowville. I look to be about 2 or 3 years old there in my snowsuit, so I guess this is 1951 or 52. My mother throwing snowballs at me. And that little boy there in the brown suit, I believe his name was Donnie Porter. Lived next door to grandmother and grandfather there on West State. There's the old set of big steps that used to be in the front of the house. And there's Bill Tyner and myself coming up from the back, and apparently Barry, my brother, sitting there. That's Barry coming down by the old chicken coop and swing. There's Betty Lee, Lowell Tyner's wife, mother of Bill and Dewey Tyner, sitting up in one of the chairs that Grandpa made. There's Dewey and Bill, Lowell DeWitt Jr. and William Lee, and a puppy. Now we switch to winter. There's Barry, myself with the coonskin cap, and again I think Don Porter, I think was the boy's name. There's one of the original Tinkers there, the dog. I was a lot more ambitious in those days, apparently. There's Dewey and Bill Tyner. This must have been around 1953. Must have been the winter of 53 and 4. Gotten rid of my coonskin cap. And the old sled that I remember very well. There's my dad, Harold, in his thinner days, giving me a ride down the front sidewalk. I believe this is in Glen Park, when we lived in Glen Park, over near Watertown. Barry again with the red hat, and myself with the brown jacket on there, and the little girl, I don't know what her name was. And apparently one of the other children that lived in the other part of the house that we lived in Glen Park. Here I'm not sure. I think this must have apparently still been in Glen Park. Same little girl there. This is Main Street in Lowville. One of the parades. Heading down towards the Four Corners, almost to the Four Corners where the parade is there. Now, I believe this is 1954. I think later on my kindergarten class comes through in the parade. See some familiar faces there and some of the adults, but couldn't tell you now who they were. And this is, of course, looking down at the Four Corners. Irvine's General Electric store there on the left, the old Mita's drugstore down across the corner, looking down towards the Bateman Hotel, and Farney's soda shop there on the left. With all the flags, I guess maybe this was the 4th of July. And there I come with my little suit coat on and my flag right there. So I think this was kindergarten, which would have made it 54. Here we are up in the backyard where Mother lives now. That's Rosie Spann. She was our babysitter when we were little quite often. And myself and Barry, and there's grandmother. We were all pretty playful that day. That must be Deborah in the stroller. This was back when the yard was pretty well kept with flowers and trees. And Grandma pointing to some of the flowers that she spent quite a little time on. Now we're at the Bible school at the Nazarene Church on the other side of Lowville. That's me in the blue flowered shirt and suspenders there. And I'd don't remember the name of the street, but it's the one where Nordson Berkler's Ford dealership is right on the corner at the top of the hill. And I apparently became more interested in Dad taking my picture than I did in the dodgeball game. And there you're looking across the corner at the Ford dealership across the road. These are some of the older children at the time having their game. And that was my brother, and here they are passing out the ice cream at the end of the Vacation Bible School day. There's Vivian Bierman's daughter, Ruth Ellen. There's grandmother in the second row on the left with her burgundy sweater on. She was always very active in the Bible school program, as I remember. Getting a picture of all the faculty. I don't know who that man is. I remember him, he seems familiar, but I can't recall his name. Ruth Ellen Bierman again. And Barry again, enjoying his ice cream. There goes grandmother. One of the many Christmases I spent in Lowville. I look to be maybe 4 there, probably 1953. Maybe not quite that old, maybe 52. I can still remember some of those toys. Kind of interesting. I remember that little toy there with the cars on it. Last year Betty and I were up in Old Forge in an old antique shop. There was one just exactly like it. It was all bent and broken and rusty. I thought it'd be nice to clean it up, maybe just have it here at the house. And I don't know what Dad paid for that one, but they wanted $70 for the one with no cars and all the rust, so we passed on it. that, I'd have treated it a little better. I almost think, yeah, that must have been my cousin Leland. And there's my mother. And Viola. There's Lee and Vi, that's my mother's brother. And Viola, his wife. That was her mother, the lady on the couch. And that, I think, was Bobby Conlon. I lost most of my memory with my hair, so if I get some of these names wrong, apparently it was. There's Walter. And there's Mother. Oh, here's some ice skating. Cynthia, there's Fred and Evelyn, ice skating. Fred and Evelyn Price. My father's sister and her husband. There's Marion. I would make an assumption maybe this was in Gouverneur, but possibly the ice skating rink in Lowville. Things have changed so much, I'm not sure. And back to watching me open presents on another Christmas, apparently. Another drum. Apparently my folks were gluttons for punishment. I seem to get a drum every Christmas. Now my son plays the drum at school. Shadowy figure in the background there. I think that must have been Grandma. It's a good thing Dad decided it was important to get pictures of me when I was little, because some important people seem to pop into the picture now and again, so we get a look at them. That's Barry watching the train go around. From watching these movies, I can see that I didn't have much of a deprived childhood, at least at Christmas time. I still drive nails just about like that. There's Barry all bundled up. Yeah, I can even remember that old chair. Now we moved on a little further, another Christmas. And again, we're getting just about everything you can imagine. I remember something about Dad's salary in those days, and he must have been into February or March paying the bills for this kind of Christmas. But I don't remember ever lacking for anything. I think this was the gas station where they made their first mistake. I think they made that to both of us. Began our career of fighting with each other. And another train. Makes you wonder what happened to the train we got last year. Well, we moved from Christmas time to summertime. And I don't see any indication of where that might be. Oh, I guess we're at Governor Fred and Evelyn's. There's Dad and Mother, myself and Barry. I think that's Fred and Evelyn Price's driveway. I got the ride and Barry wanted the ride, apparently. There's Fred and Evelyn, Mother, Barry right in the middle of the screen. And the airport, I'm not sure. I would assume it's the one at Dexter. Dad used to rent a plane there once in a while and fly a little bit when we lived in Glen Park. Mom tells us of going out to wave to him as he went over, but I can't honestly say I remember it. Here we are out in the old swing. The barn and the old chicken coop, long gone. That swing provided plenty of hours of fun for a lot of us. There's Shirley. This must have been around 1961. Another Christmas. Barry with a big scar on the side of his head from falling off a couch and hitting one of the old metal registers. The big mirror that was always on the wall in Lowville. Deborah, Shirley. Shirley seems a bit perplexed about what's going on here. Deborah counting her gifts. And there's one of the model cars Dad used to give us each Christmas. He was working for American Motors at that time. There's Grandpa's old radio and Grandma's phonograph in the background there. And the big old dining room table that saw us all grow up. And we've moved on once more, I guess, to another Christmas. Either that or Deborah went and got dressed. One of Barry's scientific experiments. And there's the old kitchen. Grandma out there making dinner for Christmas. The old stove in the old doorway. Betty Lee, there's myself, not quite happy. Apparently I'd been warned about something. There's Lowell, Barry, Deborah showing Lowell her new dolls. That was Susan Roan, I believe. I think at the time Dewey and Susan were dating. And this is back in Syracuse where we lived at the time. At our house on Reese Drive. Looks like another mini Christmas in Syracuse after our Lowville extravaganza. There's Carol Parsons, now Carol Merritt, my cousin. And there's Rachel, her older sister. Obviously the twist was in fashion in 1961. And Deborah gets right into it too. Here we are, I believe, at Uncle Glenn's church. That's Walter there, just came out. There's Lowell. Aunt Ruth. Oh, this is Glenn and Paul's wedding. There's Uncle Glenn. Anita Ray. Glenna. Oh, it's a shame these didn't come out clearer than this. Glenn and Paul Dixon. I'm afraid time has taken its toll on this one. It's not very clear, but traditional stuffing of the cake into somebody's mouth. And that, I believe, is Deborah with a hula hoop. Seems to be doing very well. This, I think, is back on Jefferson Street in Lowville. Looks like she's got two of them now. This must have been the time period when Dad had decided to sell hula hoops locally. They had just come into fashion, and we were apparently the local distributors. I think the figure that I remember of different size hula hoops in large cardboard containers all over the house was 170 dozen, which tended to load up the living room. And again, this is unclear, I'm afraid, but it looks like it's at the house in Lowville. Yes, there's Kilpatrick's house across the road. what little bit you can see of it. And this is looking down the side of the house, up on the high side of the hill. Unfortunately, not very clear. Well, there's me again. I seem to be involved in a lot of these early pictures. Now this, I've been told, is Uncle Glenn's church in Rochester. There's Grandpa and Grandma trying to keep me out of the road. Harold Sylvester Tyner Sr. getting his picture taken. Aunt Ruth. I hope I'm correct here. I seem to remember Dad telling me that this was... There's Tom. There's Mother. Proud mother with her baby boy and his teddy bear. I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of these people that I don't. I hope I've stated the location correctly, but everybody's moving too fast. I can't tell. There's Grandpa's hat. That's pretty obvious. Now there's Clifford Parsons, my uncle. Marcia. I guess that was Mother. There's Florence. My aunt, Mother's sister. I don't know where this is. Probably Barry. Marcia, who lives in Texas now. And everybody in bobby pins and headbands here. I'm sorry I don't recognize that man. As you've seen already, this is again in Lowville. We saw a quick glimpse of my grandfather, Harold Tyner Sr., my grandmother, Harriet Olive Glenn Tyner. This is my sister Deborah, dressed up for Easter, I think. I think these are pictures of Rose Spann's wedding. I'm not sure of that, but that looks like Rosie there. And there seems to be a cake. So maybe I've guessed correctly. Guess there isn't much of that. There's Rachel Parsons and Carol and Florence. making a dog very happy here. That was one of the original Tinkers, of which we had many. This was in the side yard on Jefferson Street, I think, in Lowville. There's Aunt Florence. And now we seem to be back to ourselves again. This is Barry's first birthday. Apparently by having the cakes out on the lawn, Dad got better light and not quite such a mess in the house. Although I think we ate a lot of grass. There I come to cause a little trouble. My graham crackers. And I think here, yeah, Bill decided not to cause any trouble. Born in May of '51, so this must have been May of '52. And there's Mother trying to get him to play with his cake some more. There's Grandmother, the old metal chairs in the backyard, and there's Walter. Those chairs, Cynthia Price, my cousin. I think that's Fred sitting there next to her on the ground. There's Lowell, and Bill, Evelyn, Grandma. There's Grandpa and Grandma, Aunt Marion, there's Dewey, and Betty Lee. Uncle Fred Price. And Dad and Grandpa. Grandpa sticking his tongue out at us. And I decided to help with the automobile. Probably was a big help.